Hey, Hannah1 here, welcome to day 4 of the 12 Days of Scratchmas challenge, where I show you how to make a different Christmas themed Scratch minigame every day for the 12 days leading up to Christmas. For day 4 we're going to be making the game called On Ice, where you have to guide a Santa character around an ice rink whilst collecting gifts, and the challenge is the momentum of the character makes that a little bit tricky. And I am of course assuming that you have completed days 1, 2, 3 up till now. It's all kept in one project, so I highly recommend that you do check those out first before diving into this one. The link to those is down in the description below, but apart from that, let's jump right in to the coding. Alright, so back in our Game Sprite 1, as always, we're going to start with our When I Receive Game Start script, so just scroll until you find that. So I'm just going to, like we've done the other day, just copy everything we have in the if game is equal to 3 section and just remove the set variable 2 block. We're going to change the set variable 1 to change it to be 0. So we want to set variable 1 to 0, but apart from that we can keep everything exactly the same. So we can just drag that into the if game is equal to 4 section, and that's super simple because it's very similar to what we did the other day. But let's move on to the clone define script. So scroll down until you find that, and we need to find the if game is equal to 4 section. What we want to do is set this type to rink. Drag that in. Then we're going to switch costume to rink. Find that costume. Okay, so we can switch costume to rink, and we want to go to 0, -50. Why? And then create clone of myself. Then we can just copy all of this and change it to be set this type to skater. Switch costume to skater. And I want to then remove that. We just can create clone of myself and drag that in. And finally we're going to create clone of Game Sprite 2, which we'll be coding in just a second. So as you can see, if we go onto On Ice and click, we now have the rink, and up here is Game Sprite 2, which, like I said, we'll just code it in a minute. But before we do that, let's go up to the When I Start as a clone script. In the if game is equal to 4 section, we need an if function, and we want the condition to be if this type is equal to skater. And within this we want an if-else function with the condition if game state is equal to 0. Just like that. In the if portion we are going to point in direction 0. Then we want to duplicate this, and if game state is equal to 1, we want to point in direction, we want to point towards mouse pointer, sorry. Else we're going to move variable 1 steps, and then we're going to set variable 1 to variable 1 operators. We're going to times variable 1, I didn't really mean to show that variable, let's quickly hide that again. Variable 1 times 0.95. So variable 1 is going to be the momentum of the character, so whichever direction you're moving in, that's how fast you're moving. And all this does is make it so that if there's no further movement input, your character just slowly glides to a halt like they're sliding on ice. It's like it adds momentum, but does bring your character slowly to a halt. Then we're going to add in an if function, with the condition being we need a less than operator for the condition, and we need it to be if x position is less than -132. And in this case, we're going to set x to -132. We need another if operator, and this time we need it to be if x is greater than +132. Then we can set x to 132. And within both of these, we need to set variable 1 to be 0. So if you hit the edge of the rink, then all your momentum is lost. So drag that into both of those. We can duplicate this and attach it to the bottom. Change both of the X position ones to be Y positions. Then we need it to be if Y is less than negative 133. And for this one, so then we need to set Y to negative 133. Then if Y is greater than 35, then we need to set Y to 35. So we can drag that in after the set variable 1, 2 block. And then at the end of this, after all of that, we need another if function. So after this, if variable 1 is equal to 35, just after that, we need a less than operator in there with 1 in the right hand side. And for this, we're going to take the absolute value operator, which just basically means how big the number is in either the negative or positive direction. So the absolute value of 5 is 5, the absolute value of minus 5 is also 5. So however far from 0 the number is basically. So we need this to be the absolute value of variable 1, and if it's less than 1, we'll set variable 1 to be 0. And quick correction, we need actually all of this to, everything from this type is equal to scatter should actually be in an if-else function, not an if function. That was my mistake. So let's quickly just switch that over. Then we can add the if function into the else portion. Just quickly clean this up. And then we can set the condition to be if this type is equal to rink. So then we need an if function in that with an and operator in the condition space and an and operator in one side of that. So we have 3 conditions for this. So we need to be if touching mouse pointer and mouse down and game state is equal to 1. So just duplicate that, drag that in. And in this case, we will set the variable 1 to be 10 to give you a bit of movement, and then we will also set game state to be 2. Oh, and also after we set value in this absolute value condition, after we set variable 1 to 0, we also need to set game state to 1. If I go back into the game now, once the countdown hits 0, you can just shoot the player around the rink. So for game sprite 2, what we need in the if game is equal to 4 section of the when I start as a clone script, the first thing we're going to do is go to front layer to make sure it doesn't appear behind the ice rink, and we're going to set size to 25%. We're then going to add in a go to block. For the X side, we're going to go to pick random negative 120 to 120. And for the Y side, we're going to set it to 20, negative 130. This will just move it to a random position. And then we're going to switch costume to pick random 1 to 12. So now we'll get a random gift in a random position on the ice rink. And then after this, we want a forever loop. Within this loop, we are going to add an if function. And we're going to say to be if countdown is less than 1. Do that, and then we're going to, within this, delete this clone to make sure we don't have a sprite that we don't need. After that, we need another if function just after this loop, so not in the loop, just after it. Then we want to have it be, so we're going to quickly show the game sprite 1 very quickly. So we want to use the sensing, and then to make sure we're touching the right sprite, we're going to use a screen picker and choose the red of the Santa's hat. So that way if we collide with a sprite, it will detect the colour and act as a collision. And within this, we are going to change score by 1, create clone of myself, and then delete this clone. One mistake I did make, we're going to actually remove the create clone of game sprite 2 from the game is equal to 4 section. And instead, we are going to scroll back up to the game start script. A little mistake on my part. And we're just going to create the clone of game sprite 2. Going to just create that right after we set cooldown to 20. So if I show you that, 3, 2, 1, and then we get the present, And we can then glide around and collect all of the presents to try and get as high a score as possible in the time limit. We're going to add in our sound effects now, just to add our final bit of polish. And then in the code section, we're going to, for game sprite 2, we need to find that. And then in the if touching color red section, we're going to start sound correct. That's all we need to do for sounds, because the game over sound is already in place, because we just copied the code in from the last episode. So apart from that, we are done. So thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video. Like, subscribe if you did. It lets me know that this is something you want to see more of. Join the Discord link down below, and I'll see you tomorrow with day 5 of the 12 Days of Scratchmas challenge. Bye!